Hello everybody, I'm Alexei Kraber, the organizer of Scala, here at PhoneDB, and we're following the panel on infrastructure after Reader. And one of the panels is Yao Yue. She's a staff engineer working on caching, and so she leads the Pelican.io project. So this is very interesting. I'm curious how, caching is a fundamental part. How did you get to choose this project at Reader?
So I didn't choose caching. I got dropped into caching because that's the one thing that caused Twitter to be on fire a lot of the times. And that was only one other person at the time working on caching. So I joined the company at the time, and they were like, "Okay, you go work on caching." So that's and that's 6 years ago.
But you stuck with this.
Yeah.
So there is something about caching that you should like.
Yep.
So what is it? What makes it so fundamental?
So caching is a conceptually extremely simple service. Right? You put something in memory, potentially on a different machine, you want it out. It may or may not be there. So compared to database, a lot of the guarantees are just removed. You get to basically do a very simple service that does not provide too much guarantees. The only one it has to deliver is to be fast.
Yes.
So it's the sort of the ultimate high-performance distributed system that you want to deploy in a data center, right? So I'm attracted to cache because I'm interested in performance fundamentally.
What about things being stale? Is it the job of cache, or is it the job of the whole system, as to know what data is in which cache, so you're not getting stale data?
Well, someone said one of the two hot problems in computer science is cache invalidation. So generally the answer to staleness is you do the best you can. A lot of the time scalability and throughput and latencies trump the need for fresh data. So people actually would go very far on staleness. They would serve stale data for a few seconds and stuff if that means they can cut a lot of their throughput requirement, or improves their latencies. So this kind of trade-off happens all the time.
Okay. So I have this interesting personal experience. I had an interview at Google, and I got the author by basically answering every problem with caching, right? So they throw puzzles at me, and I would kind of take a pause, and then I would realize it's caching. And so because there are different people in the loop, they probably thought of most pressing problems for them, and they all basically as caching problems. So is it indicative of Twitter as well? Is kind of caching one of the major pieces of distributed system?
Well, one quote I like to use is like there are three fundamental problems to solve. All computer science problems drill down to these three, right? Hash, cache, and trash.
Yes.
And I actually emailed the author of this quote. I said, why trash? Like, did you foresee, that was in the 90s. I was like, did you foresee that, garbage collection is going to be a thing? He's like, no, it just rhymes. I need a third thing. so really it's just hash and cache, right? So as a concept, it's universal. But, depending on the context, when we talk about caching, we are talking about specific form of caching. And I certainly only own a very thin slice in the entire spectrum, from CDN to CPU cache, right? It's pretty ubiquitous.
And so you have this Pelican project, and we're not very familiar with it yet. So what is the advantage of this? What's a good way to start, to try it? Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Sure. So Pelican, I think one way of looking at it is Twitter has been using caching very heavily for a number of years, and at very large scale. So it's an answer to all the problems in terms of feature, in terms of scalability that we have encountered in our production. So as we think how we can fix these problems, the answer to that is basically Pelican. So don't think of it as, oh, I want this whole new thing to replace all the existing caches. It's a natural evolution from actually all the things we have been using. One example is, it has a different code name, right? But if you look at the source code closely, 50% of the code in this code base actually is borrowed from heavily tested code bases like Redis, Memcache, Twin Proxy, all open source projects. Right? So we're just trying to architect this critical component in such a way that it overcomes a lot of the scalability problems we saw before, and it paves the way for more feature development in the future that hopefully is can be carried out in a very productive way.
Okay. Are there any dependencies? Is it easy to set up, separately and play with this?
Sure. So if you just go to GitHub, Twitter
Yes.
/Pelican.
Yes.
It's there. So it's a single code base that has no external dependencies. Because it turns out having dependencies makes a lot of things hard. So
Yes.
we did a lot of work to do away with dependencies. And it just compiles. If you have CMake, you have GCC or CLAN, you can compile it, you can run it. I'm happy for people to perform test it compared to Redis or Memcache or whatever, and tell me how you feel about it.
Nice. So thank you very much. I think it's very exciting. I would like to have you back at the microservices meetup because I think a lot of this stuff is glued together with caches. So thank you very much. Looking forward to learning more.
Yeah, thanks for having me.